This shit is getting alarming, and you need to understand this.
I ain't gonna give in now, I just gotta live this now. I be gonna be when I'ma kill this stuff real quick. I'ma go take it to town, cause I gotta be that king in the ring when I'm knocking them out when I'm back with the whip. Cause I am just up on the journey, you know that I'm just going insane.
Warriors, rise. Grand rising, good evening, warriors all over the world. This shit is getting alarming, and you need to understand this. Not understand. It's time to understand what's actually happening. My name is Coach JB, and my mission on this channel is to help as many people as possible break free from the just over broke paradigm. I take information from my 8 to 9 hours a day of research, my knowledge in banking, and my understanding of macro and microeconomics, and I try to make the complex simple so you can make informed decisions. I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. I'm just documenting my journey, transitioning my family into this new quantum financial system that we're not going to stop. And one thing that I want to talk about today is the de-dollarization. In 1971, we detached from the gold standard. President Nixon in August 1971 comes onto a regular television, comes onto a show and tells our hippie parents, hey, we're detaching from the gold standard to protect us from foreign adversaries. So if you flip his speech and just say the opposite of everything else, that's actually what they were doing. Well, around 1974, they're like, oh shit, what happened? Oh God, we might have made a mistake. People are going to stop using the dollar. Dollar was dominant, right? So they go to the Saudis. They create a deal with the Saudis to protect them with arms and military protection, right? And we did what's called the petrodollar. And so all oil has been traded in US dollar since about 1974, if I'm getting that correct, around the oil crisis or the gas crisis, right? So now, since 1971 to now, today, there's been nothing backing our currency other than our belief system in it, right? So the dollar has been a dominant force since 1971. As we sit in America, we're at 139% debt to income ratio. 33% of our debt is held outside the United States. We have the most debt out of any country held outside of our country. I understand our GDP is bigger than anybody else. We are in a really tough position. We raised interest rates, crushing other countries. So when we raise interest rates, our dollar goes up, okay? Other countries are pissed, and they've been working slowly and methodically to de-dollarize from America. If they de-dollarize from America, America's dominance is done. I need you to understand that as an American building the American dream, or is it all by design to move us into this new digital currency? You need to pay attention to the BRICS, okay? The BRICS countries. Well, I'm going to break down what I think is happening. So this is much bigger than crypto, okay? We're moving into a blockchain technology, on-demand liquidity, and an asset-backed currency in a digital currency type of way. So let's break down what's actually happening. Okay, so we're going to watch this quick video here. De-dollarization is already happening between China, Saudi Arabia, says think tank. Okay, so this was on, I think this was about a month ago. And then I'm going to show you kind of like go backwards and go forward how my brain works, connecting the logic together, what I think is happening, problem, reaction, solution. So we're going to watch this video first, and then we'll go into some news and kind of see the historical pattern that's happening right now that's weakening, that's going to weaken the dollar and move us into a new digital currency.
The other interesting angle to this is that for a long time, Saudi Arabia has teased that it could perhaps start selling its oil in yuan to those Chinese buyers. Do you see that as a material risk? It's something that often comes up in conversation during times of tension between the US and Saudi Arabia. Are we going to see oil priced in yuan as this strategic pivot across the region and China's push into the American sphere of influence continues?
I think it's already happening, and I wrote about it a lot in my book, De-Dollarization. I think that this trend is already beginning. There's no reason why two countries that already have vast exposure to the US dollar should maintain their trade in a third-party currency. The Saudis have a lot to buy from China. China has a lot to buy from Saudi Arabia. Why should they transact in a third-party currency and incur all of these exchange rate costs and so forth? It's much more natural for them to trade in their own currencies or engage in barter deals so that Chinese send their infrastructure companies to Saudi Arabia, and in exchange, Saudi Arabia sends oil. So there are a lot of models that could apply here. But I certainly think that even though nobody wants to make a big noise about the de-dollarization issue because that's such a sensitive issue for the United States, I think that this is sort of in the subtext of a lot of what's going on here. Don't forget that both countries, both China and Saudi Arabia, have been shocked by what they've seen the Americans and the Europeans doing to the Russians in terms of freezing central bank assets and so forth. That's something that really shook them because, today it's Russia, tomorrow it's me. So that certainly has impact on their decision making. And I think the de-dollarization is already starting to happen in many relationship between not only between China and Saudi Arabia, but also other countries that are looking to diversify their foreign exchange portfolio and
okay. So super important what he talked about. So the American bully is starting to get pushed back on. People are like, okay, we have options now. We have this new digital currency, right? We don't have this SWIFT system where that's the only way we can transfer money internationally. This is what we really need to understand about the macroeconomics, okay? Here's the crazy thing about it. Now there's digital currency, on-demand liquidity. They can move money at the speed of light. They don't need a third party or intermediary. We don't need SWIFT anymore. That is the old industrial archaic banking system. Let me repeat that. That is the old archaic industrial banking system. That's why SWIFT is switching to distributed ledger technology. That's why JP Morgan switched to distributed ledger technology. That's why Bank of America has Ripple in its patent. That's why Wells Fargo is working with R3. They are all switching to a digital currency, okay? And it's going to have an asset-backed type currency in a digital currency type of way. Okay, so that guy's explaining it very well, but let's talk about facts, figures, numbers, logic. On November 26, 2019, before the C word, BRICS nation discussed BRICS, so that's Britain, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Okay, BRICS nations discussed shared crypto to break away from USD and SWIFT. Okay, so they were already working on a crypto, some sort of crypto to break away. This is in 2019. Okay, so then the first thing that America did in February 27th, well, this was when the news came out, US and European allies moved to cut Russian banks off the SWIFT system. So the first thing that America did, Biden goes in there and cuts them off the SWIFT system, tries to cut them off money supply. Think about that. So you're sitting there as a president of a country, okay, and they cut you off of money supply. Excuse my language, but you're like, fuck you. We can create our own digital currency. We got these massive, countries in BRICS that are all massive GDP combined. We now together are bigger than you. So we're going to create our own currency. We're going to create our own monetary system. That's what's happening right now. Screw FTX and all this stuff happening and all this noise. That's what's happening right now. Your world is shifting from industrial to technical. You're not going to stop this freight train. Going to, birthday parties and these little family things where people say crypto's a fraud and all this stuff. They don't understand what's happening. This is much bigger than just cryptocurrency. This is a switch in a monetary system. This is a switch in the ecosystem. Nothing's going to be the same in the next 5 years. You have an opportunity from now till about the Bitcoin halving to get into these speculative assets. I believe at the lowest price they're ever going to be, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Let's continue. Okay, so this was so let's go back. Let me take a deep breath. 2019. They were already talking about breaking away and creating their own crypto to screw us, so we can't mess with them. So U.S. of course. And Europeans, they literally are the European allies were like, screw them. We're taking them off the SWIFT system when Russia invaded Ukraine. So we're messing with their money, right? You don't mess with people's money. Then this was on January 23rd, which was yesterday. Brazil president suggests creating common currency for BRICS. If it were up to me, we would always trade with other currencies and national currencies so as not to depend on the dollar. Why not make an attempt to create a common currency for Mercosur countries or for BRICS countries? The president said at a joint press conference with the president of Argentina. Okay. here we go. So this is what the BRICS is. The BRICS economic bloc is made up of 5 world's biggest emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The acronym started as BRICS in 2001 when Goldman Sachs, the chief economist Jim O'Neill, predicted that the economic weight of Brazil, Russia, India, and China could eclipse the world's biggest economies in the next decade. A decade passed and it didn't happen, but leaders of BRICS nations did hold their first official summit in Russia in 2010, with South Africa joining the group a year later. Since then, they have met regularly to discuss cooperation and global issues. Okay, as we've moved along here, so this is off of Forbes Digital Assets, following the yellow brick road to a digital reserve currency. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, is creating a new set of arrangements to allow companies to settle foreign trades in rupees. This means that its use of obvious example, Russia and India organizations can trade goods and services without using the dollar. Under such arrangements, Russia Bank will be required to open rupee accounts with the Indian banks, and Indian banks will need ruble accounts in Russia. Both countries would have to agree to hold a sum, say 1 billion, in local currencies in their respective accounts. So Russian banks will have rupees worth 1 billion, and Indian banks will have Indian banks with rupees of 1 billion in the Russian account. The Indian exporters can be paid in rupees for Russian exports from the rupees held by Russian banks in their Indian accounts, while Russians get paid in rubles for their Indian exports. Okay. Once a mutually acceptable exchange rate is determined by the market is decided upon, trade between India and Russia can proceed with no dollar legs. That's what distributed ledger technology, that's what stable coins do. That's what Russia is doing here. Russia's largest bank issued gold-backed digital financial assets. The issuance became the second major operation of the bank with the new asset class. Okay, Russia's largest bank, Cyber, formerly known as Cyber Bank, reported the first issue of gold-backed digital financial assets. The bank considers DFAs to be a great alternative to no investment amid dollar de-dollarization, excuse me. It's happening. That's why the U.S., either the U.S. is really that far behind, or there's a big ass game being played behind our back. Either the U.S. is like, you know what, they're part of this whole ecosystem and everybody's working together, all these countries. Davos is getting together, moving us together into this new digital world. And we're just seeing this, we're watching a stage and we're just, in the audience going, oh, wow, look at this and look at this. And I'm showing you this narrative here when they might be saying, all right, America, your time's up. We're going to move everything over. All you bigwigs, get your investments over here. This is where we're moving the wealth. Okay, guys, we'll run over here and let's make them think all this is going on. But this is facts. This is what's actually happening to your world. Okay, this is a Saudi central bank continues CBDC experiment. This came out yesterday. The Saudi central bank continues to experiment on central bank digital currencies and is currently working on a phased project that focuses on domestic wholesale CBDCs, use cases in collaboration with local banks and fintechs. Okay. And as we sit here in America, this came out, the U.S. is massively underperforming global stock market, and analysis see more of the same. Debt limit, fight risk, early to end Fed quantitative easing. The Federal Reserve quantitative easing program risk being propelled toward an early end as U.S. politicians bicker in Washington over raising national debt, according to some economists. Here we are, guys. Here we are. So they have to raise the national debt to pay for pensions. They have to raise the national debt to pay for Social Security. They have to raise our national debt and borrow more money to keep our military going. Think about that for just a moment. There's only a couple ways they can fix this debt bubble, is to print more money, which doesn't sound like they're going to do that. They can spend less with their not $1.7 trillion spending bill. They can move the debt from the people who have it to people who need it. They're sure as hell not going to do that. And number 4, you can restructure the debt. So I believe we're heading into a restructuring of debt worldwide. The whole world is screwed. We found out China's in tough position. Everybody's in a tough position. But this new digital currency makes money move at the speed of light, and velocity of money is key. Liquidity is key. All the banks, central banks, are in a liquidity crisis. Okay, so pay attention. These are the digital assets, the shovels that we're invested in, the infrastructure, right? Everybody's searching for gold, trying to get rich quick with these cryptos. Look at the intrinsic value of these cryptos and investments you're investing in. Is it the shovel? Is it the infrastructure? Invest in it, hold long term, hold the line, don't trip, buy the dip, diamond hand, and understand when this thing goes parabolic, you better have an exit plan in 2024 to 2025, because you need to get some of that wealth out and get it into God's money, gold, silver, land, and hold on to that, because the richest people in the world own the most land. They own the most gold and silver. That's why central banks are stacking gold right now. Something is happening right now. It's here. Okay, this is not pie in the sky, tinfoil hat. It's here. All right, Warriors. So I would love to invite you into our family, the Warrior Academy, 7 days for free in 2023. If you click the description down below, okay, if you have any questions, you can apply for my private coaching program as well. It is a large investment. You can go 4 months with me through my private coaching program. We're almost full for February 6th, but we're already interviewing to fill up the next spot. But you can also jump right into the Warrior Academy. If you apply for the private coaching program, one of my team members will reach out to you and see if you qualify for it, but we'll also see how we can help you. If you want to jump into our private Warrior Academy with over 120 courses, 7 calls per week, it has access to, I show you my portfolio of what's going on. You get to meet our team, 120-day challenge to help you get your shit together, 7 days for free in 2023. Be the best decision you ever made. I love you guys. I appreciate you. As we always say, Warriors, rise. Let's get our shit together. Let's go.